years I've been here, nothing that I've had done so far has been emergency. So that it couldn't wait a day or two.
Does Dell still have a 24-hour response on site?
If we buy our computers through them, they will support those computers, I believe, for a year, but I'm not sure they're...
Well, you can have extended warranties with them also. They'll cover it for 3 years.
Right, if we buy it's only for a specific computer, so
Yeah, I know.
it's not going to work for our...
We're still buying the home-built versions,
Yeah.
built in somebody's garage somewhere.
So I don't know if you
maybe
wanted
this will change that.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to look at that or change it or any comments.
It was fine.
If not, I think that we could probably move forward on this also.
That was a good draft. I had a few comments, nothing, no elephants.
Okay.
So let's push it forward.
Okay.
All right? Item 13, thank you, Levon.
Actually, since I'm here, can I just bring up one other thing? Talking about special district rates, I did get a verbal discussion with the engineers on the consolidation of Peaceable and Hillcrest, and we have positive recommendation from the engineers that it is feasible. We have to get an additional well, possibly 2, and extra storage and some connection of pipes and some pumping issues, but that's pretty much it. We could combine those 2 units.
Yeah, and the eminent domain issue. Right.
That would be for Springhouse, but this is for Hillcrest. No, the Hillcrest, actually, we're going to take the existing property that Hillcrest operates on and just expand on that footprint. And the town actually owns some property adjacent to that special district that we could put a well on.
Not the well, the pipe.
Oh, no, that pipe, yeah, I know what you're talking about. We're actually going to be able to go down through Peaceable Hill and connect the pipes on Peaceable Hill. We won't need
Excellent.
We won't need to take any property for that.
Okay.
I think before we do that, though, I would like to speak to, I know that some residents in Hillcrest have been sending us some emails, and they're a little concerned about hooking up with Peaceable.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think they should be part of any of these discussions now.
Well, the largest part is that we can keep the districts separate, and Hillcrest residents would not incur any of the cost of the connection or upgrade to the system. That would be considered a capital expense of the Peaceable Hill district. But because we're going to keep them separate districts, Hillcrest would actually sell water to Peaceable at the rate that it costs them to cover the cost of operating and producing the water to that district to offset that district charge. So it wouldn't affect the rates of that district, even though the district's capital costs would go up.
All right, so I would just like to communicate that to them and let them know, and obviously their input's important.
I mean, if you want to...
I think they're also worried about capacity and, that they're not going to run out of water now with these other houses and stuff. But I just think they should be kept in the loop.
That's part of the engineering and the testing that has to be done to the system. Right. We already did a preliminary test. It was very positive. There's signs that there's plenty of water there. We will not have any issues with volume. The problem is that we need an additional well to pump additional amounts of water to a storage tank so that we have volume. We need to have at least 1 day storage on hand. We can't operate a system with less than that. Currently, the Hillcrest district has enough water. They produce enough water out of their wells to actually incorporate Peaceable Hill. But the problem is if one of the wells was to go out from a pump dying or something, you wouldn't be able to produce or keep up with the volume. That's why you need to have the storage there. And the additional well would be a backup or a mechanical backup in case the best well goes out. So those are the things we need to look at and come up with for engineering.
I just want to say, Levon,
thanks.
I've also had inquiries from people living in that area, and they're concerned. So I think the kind of things you're talking about right now, they should hear from you, and they might put their concerns drop off their concerns. They'd be satisfied.
We could, I mean, if you want, we could invite those residents of
Yes,
Peaceable
definitely.
and Hillcrest into a meeting. We can
Definitely.
I can be here if you want. I can draft up a letter and send it out to those 2 districts.
As Bob said, their main concern is capacity. They don't want to lose the water they have now. So.
Oh, I think that's important because it's the only way probably people would be satisfied is just to get an explanation. We could have you make the explanations, and if they wanted to give us any suggestions or thoughts on it, you'd be here to speak to it. We would, because ultimately the objective is to decrease the costs experienced by Peaceable Hill?
Right.
Yeah, we probably need to be belt and suspenders, we need an aquifer analysis.
And that's
So
what we would
maybe you
do.
can price that, yep.
And that's what we would do. That's actually what the initial test was, is to see what the volume would be and if there's any,
Yeah, that was kind of a water harvest analysis, but we need a groundwater analysis, where the table is, how it fluctuates, the whole geologic, and we don't want to we can't spend $1 million for it, but
yeah, to do something like that, I think you would be talking a couple $100,000 to do that type of
Well,
research.
We can price it.
Which engineer?
Chazen is doing this project.
we can price it, please. See if they have an in-house guy, if he can take a look at it,
Okay.
all right?
He
If
actually,
he tells
they're-
us it's $2 million, we'll pass. If he tells us it's
okay.
$5,000, we'll take him up on it.
Okay.
All
And then, if that's done, there's one last item with RFPs. I got verbal quotes for the HVAC for this system on this south side. Currently, we have 2 rooftop units here. They're both rotting out. One of them's completely enabled because it's just rotted beyond repair. That's why we have the leak here, because every time we turn it on, the water just comes down into the ceiling instead of filtering out through the pipes. There's no way to really repair that because the whole thing is rotted from the inside out. And we considered that an emergency to get it repaired earlier in the year, and I got 3 quotes. The cheapest one is $25,000. And this is based off the engineering that was done when we did the north side unit. The mechanical engineer identified that this unit on this side was going to need to be replaced 18 months later, and it's been just over 18 months. So I don't know. I just want to put on your radar that I did receive pricing based on the engineer's outline. Again, it's about $25,000 is the low bid, or the low pricing to replace both units and take out the existing units and so forth. My concern is that the one that we're using now to heat and cool this room is in bad shape, and if it goes halfway through the winter, we might not be able to replace it. If it's a very cold winter, we have to wait till it gets warm again because they can't do the flashing on that flat roof to install those units until it warms up again. So we wouldn't have any heat in this side of the building. So I don't know how that'd work. We'd have to get temporary heat in. Again, I don't know how much that would cost to try to get temporary heat over here to use this room. So
Is there a way to check, I'm not a mechanical engineer, but the 2 new units that we have handling the north side of the building, is there a way to tap into the ductwork and pump it into this room?
That costs about $100,000. I mean,
Yeah, we paid $100,000 for those out there. I can't see why those 2 units can't just fill up and heat and air condition this room. So if they can just
according
connect
to
the
the
ductwork.
mechanical engineer, those units would not be sufficient to heat and cool this whole entire building.
was that one mechanical engineer or 3? Maybe somebody can figure it out.
If you want to spend more money to try to figure out to get the same answer, I can spend more money if you want. That's fine with me.
I understand your point, Levon, but it would be nice to know that it wasn't just one person's opinion,
Okay.
Levon,
It's
what-
$100,000.
It's not the air
It-
conditioner guy.
It's not just the mechanical engineer's opinion. It's the calculations of tonnage, square footage, and so forth. There's calculations. It's not an opinion. But if you want, I can. If you give me approval, I'll go out and spend.
Okay.
We spent
We're gonna have to spend
$100,000 on half, not even half of those.
Yeah,
more than
It
half
was,
of
it was
those.
80,
Five
actually in
cents
the
per phone
80s,
call.
it was 80,000
Yeah, right.
actually.
Thank you.
Levon, do you know where the hypothetical $25,000 would come from? Do we still have money? I'll ask the board members here. I know that there was a fund for the, for
This building.
building this building.
There was $300,000 at one point to finish the punch list. And
Right.
some of that was spent on the air conditioning that was just discussed.
Right.
I don't know what happened to that funding.
I'm not sure either, but I was told
There was a
it
budget
down to
line, it was never
150.
earmarked. Earmark has a special legal designation.
So does that mean
It
that?
could mean, no, I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
It means that those monies were accrued on the unexpended fund balance. Right now, the unexpended fund balance, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, was around 160. We have a couple of other assets which are speculative, like an MS4 reimbursement, which may be around, estimated by the engineer, around $70,000. I was hoping to use some of that money for the library and the museum and so forth as we go forward at no cost to the taxpayers. but it was kind of holding it in reserve because we don't want to commit it all up front. But that's where we are, around 160.
So the answer is that there was money that was for this building
Right.
at one point, that was then went into a general fund that then was spent. So the money that was for this building to do repairs or to do punch lists is now gone into the general fund, and that's gone. Is that-
Into the gravy train. Yep, vanished. The train left the station with the money aboard. So there it is.
I don't know, but when, do you know Supervisor, when that money left? Do you know when specifically? Well, first, you know what I'd like to know? I don't want to belabor the point, but how much was last year, let's say a year and a half ago, when I used to come to these meetings and sit where all you people are? I know that there was money left in that for this building, because I remember everyone kept on talking about it. Do you have any idea when that money left that fund and went into the general fund? And thereafter, do you know, since you're the chief budget officer, what that money was then used for? That's, I'd like to have that answer.
Yeah, like I said, it was an asset in the gross unexpended fund balance, which was drawn from multiple budget lines. And, you know, like I said, you guys shoveled the gravy train full of cash and it left the station.
So I
that's
want to
where
know
we are.
specifically, if you can say it, because as this budget officer, you should know specifically how the money went from one fund into another fund and where it went out. Enough of the gravy train, enough of the political analogies. I just want to know, do you as the chief budget officer know where that money, when that money left that fund, where it went and what it was used for?
Liz, as much as I would like to have a mind like a computer, I don't. None of us do, neither do you. That's what computers were invented. That's why we use them.
Okay, so maybe the next meeting.
Let me, the town accountant, consult, and we can figure it out. We can answer you.
Fair enough, that'd be the next meeting. Town clerk, could you please put that on for the next work session? Thank you.
Okay, is that it, Levon?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think there was one more thing, but,
I don't know. I think this.
but I'll put it on for next meeting.
You got it, thanks.
Okay. It's not an emergency, I take it. All right, thank you. Item 13, loitering law. That's my item. I respectfully ask my colleagues that we defer this item tonight. These are the lateness of the hour. We do need a loitering law, in my opinion. We can talk about it another time. We don't have to talk about it at midnight. And item 14, which was left off by the town clerk, but I did want to mention to everybody very briefly, there is a need for the town to develop an expired drug, prescription drug policy, because when people put them down the drain and whatnot, and I'm not criticizing anybody, but as a practice, it can have repercussions on the water quality available to the community. Rite Aid Pharmacy, to give them a plug, CVS Pharmacy, some of the others, they all accept expired prescription drugs as part of their business, and then they dispose of them in a safe way. And maybe we could have a collection day or something like that going forward, where folks seniors and others, families can bring their expired prescription drugs to a safe location, and in partnership with the sheriff's office or what have you, arrange for safe disposal.
I would just,
Right in CVS, can they do
Yes,
that now?
they can do that for free.
Why don't we just have them do that then? They don't get involved in all this drugs.
All right.
I would just be a little leery about getting involved in something like this because,
Well, we make it a
Number one,
public
we don't-
service announcement.
we don't have a police department, and, you're talking about taking in drugs and who's going to collect them, and,
That's why I
there's a
mentioned the
chain of
sheriff.
evidence. I think this should be left to the county to take care of with the sheriff's department, where they can actually have police officers take them in and make sure they're properly disposed.
So I would just make an announcement that anybody has expired prescription drugs that they don't know what to do with, then they can just send it to the local pharmacies, and apparently the local pharmacies will collect them at no charge and dispose of them
Right, that
in a
would be
proper
fine.
manner. How's
Yes.
that? Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, definitely
Thank you,
don't be
folks.
flushing them down your drain or anything like that.
Thanks, folks, for your patience. And one last comment.
Sorry,
Yes.
I remembered what it was. I received from DEP today the O&M agreements for Brewster Heights and Blackberry, which is something we've been waiting for a couple of years. I will print them up and have Will look at them, but they're basically the same things that we looked at before, and asked that you could sign them. They need 8 copies of them.